Hello and welcome to another tutorial in the practical JavaScript series. Today we are going to see about XML HTTP request. So let's get started with some of the basics in the XML HTTP request object. So we are going to see how to create an XML HTTP request. Then we are going to add a listener, then open a URL and send the request. So these are the pretty much four steps that are involved in this particular tutorial, in this particular concept. So going back, so, so what is an XML HTTP request? So this is the JavaScript way, plain vanilla JavaScript way to send a request to any URL to fetch any data, so that data can be processed and can be displayed on a web page. Okay, so this is the most basic way to call what we call an AJAX request. Okay, so there are various methods in jQuery and other frameworks, but at the core, at its very basic, they all use the XML HTTP request method. So we're going to see how this works in this tutorial. So as I said, there are just four steps that are involved in this. So first is we create an XML HTTP request. Okay, that is created using the new operator. So just an example, like where OREQ, that's the name of the variable, stands for object request OREQ, equal to new XML HTTP request method. Okay, so this will create a new XML HTTP request for us, and then we add a listener. So what will we do when the request is finished, or it is sent and the data is received? So this is the listener that we need to add. So it is called add event listener. So on the object that we have created, we are calling this add event listener method, and the listener is on the load listener. So when the request is loaded, when the data is loaded, we are going to call a request listener. That is a function, a method, which can be used to process our data. And then we open the request. Okay, so here object dot open, and we use the get method. So first parameter is the get, then we send the second parameter to this as a the URL from where we are fetching the data. For example, any example text file. So this is the third step, and the fourth step is send the request. So we are saying here oric dot send. So pretty much pretty simple, and only just four steps. And so let's dive into the code, and let's see how we can use this. So before getting into the code, just let's have a look at what our output will look like. So here you can see this is a simple user data list. Okay, and let me refresh this. So as I refresh this, it is loading the data from a certain site, and then it's displaying on the web page. And some styling is given here, how alternate colors, and that is using CSS. So let's get into the code, and we have a starter file here. Okay, so this is a starter file. So we'll need some HTML here. So this is the xhr.html. You can see here HTML head, and then there is a body, and there's just h1 tag which contains the title, user data. And then I've taken a div here with a class container and users, and so that our data can be appended here in this particular div. Okay, and we are writing our script in this script.js. So here in this file, so this is the starter file, and I've taken a variable called user data. Okay, and now as I mentioned, so first step is, so going back to the PowerPoint, first step is to create the XML HTTP request. So let's go back to the code and create the XML HTTP request. I'll say var xhr xhr equal to new XML HTTP request. Okay. So, and then second step is to add a listener. Okay. So we'll add the listener, that is our load listener. Okay. So we'll say, okay, we'll say xhr xhr dot on load or add event listener. Let's say load, and we can just say function. Okay, function, and this is basically the listener. So when this request is complete, this function will get called. Okay, we will this function will get some event, okay, as a, and then we can process this process the data within this function. That's the second step. Third step is to open the URL. So we say xhr dot open, sorry, xhr dot open get, and then we are using a URL. This is a placeholder URL. This is a public URL which gives you some placeholder data or the dummy data. Okay, so we have opened, and then we are saying xhr dot send. That's the fourth step. Just send. Okay. So okay, let's go and see if this is uh, giving any errors or it is executing. So I'm just opening this with the live server from here. Okay, so you can see that. Let me open the console as well. So ignore this. So you can see there are no other errors here, and looks like the uh, the code is working. So let's try to process this data. So this parameter here, it will have our data. So let's try to console this console.log. What does it contain? Okay, so let's try to see. So you can see here, there is some data that is there. Okay, and then there is something called as target here, and this target is having our XML HTTP request data. And now you can see here there is a response text here. So you can see that our event dot target dot response text will have our data. So if you can just trace this dot target dot response text, let's see what it gives. Now here you can see that it has given a JSON object, an array of objects with lot of data. Okay, so we can see that here this particular variable, this object is giving us the data. Okay, that means our XML HTTP request is successful. It has been sent, and it is sending back the data. All right, so we want to display this data into our web page. Okay, currently it is blank. We want to display that here. Okay, so let's store this data somewhere. So as we have created an array already, so we'll say user data equal to, we'll take this event dot target dot response text, and we'll just save it there in the user data. And then what we are going to do is whatever number of objects are there, okay, in this particular array, or whatever records, how many records are there, we will traverse through all them records, and then we will display each record in a row in our web page. Okay, so to traverse through an array we have to use the for each method. Now just a note here, for those who do not know what is a for each method and how does it work, you can refer to my earlier tutorial on the for each method. The link will be given in the description of this particular video. All right, so this is how we traverse through an array. So user data is our array, and we're calling for each on this particular array, and in this we receive the user data, and so we'll create one div for one record, okay, for one user. So let's create a div. So I'll take a variable user div equal to document dot create element. So I'll say document dot create element, and this will create a div. Okay, then I'll just the newly created element, I will assign the user dot name, and then I'll just give a break here, and then I'll append user dot phone. Okay, so okay, so this particular div will have the name and phone. As you can see here, we can get the name and also the phone, okay, for each record. You can see here, you can get name and phone, okay, phone. So for now just we are populating name and phone for that particular user. So let's see if it works. Okay, so for each is not a function. Let's see. User data for each. Oh, yeah. So here, yeah, so this is an interesting error. So now it says that user data for each is not a function. So let's trace what is there in the user data. Okay, so console.log user data. Okay, so we'll just remove this particular console. Okay, you can see here it is outputting the same, but this is a string. So string, so actually this is a string, and string doesn't have the for each method. So but the array is having for each method. So what we have to do is we have to parse this string into an object or an array. For that we have to use a method called json dot parse, and we can parse this, okay, so that user data now will have an array. Can you see here, the user data is now an array, and now we can traverse through this array, and we can call the for each method, and now the error is also gone. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to create a div, okay, and we have to populate our data in this particular users div. Okay, we have to append all this data into this. So we have to select this div. Okay, so to select this div, we'll just call here, we'll just will 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 take that users div equal to document dot query selector users. Okay, so this is our users div. Okay, and then we will, maybe we can take this sentence here. Okay, and we are going to append this newly created divs to this particular parent div. So we are saying append user div. Okay, so by saving this, and you can see here, you can see all the data is populated now in this particular tabular list type of of, uh, of a structure. All right, so this is how we can use XML HTTP request, and this is how we can fetch data and we can display it on your web page. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and thanks for watching.